Hey, David Brewster here with episode of Chordplay, and this is the Chords of Blues Saraceno. And so far on this channel, I've put together 2 3-for-all lessons for Blues Saraceno. And while he may not be a household name, he's a dynamite, great guitarist. So Blues Saraceno was actually discovered by Guitar for the Practicing Musician magazine, and it was, headed by John Sticks, which was the editor-in-chief for decades. But they basically found him, I guess, his demo tape, circulated and came across their desks, and then they contacted him and they started kind of working with him, behind the scenes, and eventually they did sign a record, deal with Blues, and he released Never Look Back in 1989, and I think he was 18 years old when that happened. And then about a year after that, he actually started working with Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker, and they toured the world a couple times, and he was known as the kid that replaced Clapton. And then he released a few more solo albums, Plaid and Hairpick. He also did a lot of session work for people like Cher and Taylor Dane and Ziggy Marley and a whole bunch of people, Kingdom Come. But then eventually he did join forces with Poison after Richie Kotzen was fired, and they did record an album, but I don't think that album was released until like around the year 2000. And then he started diving into this, studio and session work out in Hollywood, and he's very successful. So even though you may not know his name, if you know Blues Saraceno, then you're probably jumping up and down and excited. If you don't really know Blues Saraceno, it's okay, because he is this behind-the-scenes studio and session master. But if you need a little bit more proof just how successful he actually is and how, his music literally is everywhere, especially if you turn on a TV, you're going to hear Blues Saraceno at some point, either on a TV show or a commercial, or it could be a, promotional video or something for a video game or maybe a movie. But check this image out, and you definitely want to pause the screen and just look. And this is like a partial list. I couldn't even make an image that fit everything that's on his website, technically, like the list of his, credits and stuff like that. But when I put this image together, I kept shrinking the font size down, and then I realized, okay, there's no way I can make this legible, maybe if it was microscopic, print. But check this image out. It's really impressive. Music in this lesson came from Blues Saraceno's first 3 solo albums, but I did want to mention in this episode that everybody watching this should seek out Blues Saraceno's new music. I mean, his old music is great, but like The Devil You Know and Wicked Gonna Come and some of those albums he's released in recent years, and you can actually find a lot of his work, as far as, songs that appeared, in television shows or in movies and stuff. You can find a lot of that on YouTube, so just search for Blues Saraceno's name, and you'll start seeing these, songs not from his solo albums popping up. And check those songs out, they're really good. The opening, that's Last Train Out, the opening track from Plaid, and it's something like this. Something like that. And it opens with this kind of single note riff that's moving into a D7 sharp 9, the Hendrix chord right here. And then right there you want to grab the Hendrix chord, you're going to dip your bar, kind of do a pre-dip, strike the chord, and then you're going to let that chord kind of rise, with the bar. And do it again right here into an E. So I like those smears with the bar into those chords. It's really unusual. It's kind of smeared. Smeared chord has a really unusual sound. It grabs your attention. Basically hearing this kind of descending, it's like these double stops, but it's kind of doing a turnaround, like a blues turnaround, but you're doing it like this. So right there, you're just literally grabbing, you know, like this partial A right there, moving down to that G. He also flicks his bar. He kind of does like a warble right there. Like that. Grab that E power chord down there, and then you hear this kind of bar dipped single note lick like this. So it's the high E and then the B open, and you're dipping the bar. And then you're going to move from A to G sharp. And right there you're going to grab F sharp to E. And then just cruise down the low E string, A, G sharp, F sharp to E. And when you get to that E, you just dip your bar. Next up is the scratch from Plaid, and it's something like this. One more time. So right there, you're basically starting with this octave. You're kind of getting like this double scratch, the octave, and then the low E. And then you're literally just climbing up these power chords, but you're scratching. I think that's why it's called the scratch. So you're literally doing 2 scratches F sharp, 2 scratches G5, 2 scratches A5, like this. And then you're going to basically move over to a C sharp, but you're also going to double it with that G sharp in the bass. And you can kind of hear that lower end, you know, off those chords right there. It's almost like Wind Cries Mary by Hendrix, but in a different key. And he's doing something different with it, but it's those stacked power chords like that. Right? So you have the octave, and then you're climbing up F sharp, G to A, and then that C sharp, D to D sharp like that. And you kind of start it over, but it's like this. Right there, you're going to basically play an E flat 9 into an E9. Right? Like this. That change where you're grabbing that C sharp, D to D sharp, and then when you're hanging on that D sharp and moving to E flat 9 to E. Right? It's got a cool progression to it. Now I like how he's banging on the low end, and then eventually you hear this upper, you know, kind of voice come in with those 9th chords. I like that kind of contrast between the lower riff and that higher riff. You know, really cool. Up next to the song Girth from Plaid, and something like this. Right there, you're literally starting with this, and I have seen this written with a C 7 sharp 9, like, you know, the Hendrix chord right there in C. But I'm really just hearing, you know, like the C minor 7. I'm not really hearing the major 3rd right there. You know, I'm just hearing this. And I could be wrong. I've been wrong before, but that's what I hear instead of that. Could be the Hendrix chord, I could be wrong, but I usually just end up playing, you know, C minor 7 like that. And then you're going to literally just bang on that chord, and then you're climbing up the single note riff. So right there, you're literally climbing up. And then you're going to basically move back to that B flat. And then you're going to do that slide right there into that C, you know, C minor 7 again. Like the last time there, he just kind of changes it because it goes right into the song after that. That's the intro part. But I really like that intense, you know, riff in Girth, because it's really cool. Never Look Back album, and this is technically played on an acoustic guitar, but I'm just using my electric for the clean tone. But it's something like this, these really moody and mysterious chords, which I'm a big fan of, like this. It starts with this E minor played like that. There's a really specific, picking pattern right here. Like that. And you're going to move back to this D add 11 right there. And you're moving to this, and that's a C major 7 played like that. And then right there it's going to move to the C add 9 sharp 11. This kind of G, F sharp to E walk down. So that first pass of chords right there. Go back to that E minor, D add 11, C major 7, and at the end just strum that C add 9 sharp 11 right there. And then it starts. Next up is the song King for a Day from the Hairpick album, and you can see I've changed guitars. We're actually tuned down a half step and drop D for this one, and it's like this. So we're basically walking down, remember we're in drop D and we're tuned down a half step. But we're hearing the slide, and then you're hearing this kind of descending power chord move on like those 38 special chords we've talked about before, like this. So that's D5 to an A over C sharp, and then C5 to a G over B right there. And you want to walk down this F, E to that low D, because we're tuned to drop D. And then you've got B flat to this F over A right there. And then these one finger power chords, what that A flat to G to F. Just kind of a scratch before that F. And do it again. Starts to kick in right there. I'm hearing this, and it's basically a D minor 7. I guess you could also play that like that, and you could technically play all those open strings on the bottom, but I'm not hearing all that. I'm just hearing this. It's that little tight, 3-note chord. It's a really cool song, and I like that heavy detuned, sound too, of course. The last example here is Tommy Gun, the last song from Plaid. I think this is my favorite Blues Saraceno song. And I do play the riff a little bit differently than blues does, but I'll explain that in a minute. I'm going to demonstrate both versions, his way and my way. But here's Tommy Gun my way, like this. And then here it is again, Blues Saraceno's way. Just a slight different, like fingering. The notes are the same, but I do prefer to play it this way. It kind of feels more like a scale-based, riff. I kind of fan my fingers out. I'm using my pinky, and I prefer that compared to the open position, version with just a couple fingers and open strings. And there's nothing, wrong with either way. I just prefer to do it this way, and especially that fast descending run, I think is easier, using this fingering, even though you have your hand fanned out. but it is really clunky and kind of awkward, I think, in open position. Just my opinion. But my version's like this, and we're basically dancing around like this E minor, tonality. So right there, after you open that riff. Descending, sequence right there, that run. And that's the part that I prefer to play right here, instead of doing it this way. And you can do it down there. It just doesn't feel the same, and it seems to, at least for me, it seems to work better this way. Hit those chords, we're basically ending that riff on that D note, and then you're moving to D sharp and then ending on E right there. Just kind of bang off that, E5 right there. But that's a really cool riff, and it's just, I don't know, it has the sinister kind of dark groove to it. Really like it. That's going to wrap this episode of Chordplay with the Chords of Blues Saraceno. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm a big fan of Blues Saraceno. I love his guitar playing and his music. It's very melodic and expressive. It's got this funky, bluesy, kind of rock out sound. And even his more recent stuff, like the dark country stuff, I love that music. A lot of it's acoustic, and he's talking about, grave diggers and stuff like that, and vultures and whatever, and gunfighters, and whatever, bones and skulls and Bibles and guns and stuff and whatever. And it's like, man, I like this because it's kind of got that Western kind of dark country sound, but you can still tell it's him. A lot of it he's singing and playing. And then The Devil You Know, like his most recent album, that's killer. It's really just an EP, but there's vocal songs, there's an instrumental song on there too, and you can hear it's him. I mean, it's not the same as it was. It's not like hearing Plaid or something. But you can still hear Blues Saraceno, even in his most recent music. You can hear those licks and riffs and maybe a pinch harmonic or something. Really cool. So anyway, leave some feedback and comments. Please subscribe to my lessons, and I'll be back before you know it with more content and material. Thank you.